A new Marquette Law School poll was released today.
The latest poll finds that job approval ratings for both Governor Scott Walker and President Obama have slipped below 50% in Wisconsin. Charles Franklin is the director of the Marquette Law School Poll. Welcome back to Live at 5.
Charles.
Good to be here.
Good to see you in the middle of the summer.
Yes.
So what do your new numbers show?
Well, what we see is both Obama and Walker slipped by 3 percentage points. Now, the margin of error is 3.7, so 3 points is not quite outside the margin of error.
Let's take a look at the governor's numbers first.
But what's so striking is how consistent both of them have been at holding right about 50 or 51% for the last 12 months, really. So a little bit of slippage here is I think, quite interesting. For the governor, that means going from 51% approval in May to 48% now. For President Obama, it's from 50% to 47% now. And so a little bit of movement, taking both of them a little bit under 50%.
What does that tell you?
It may tell us nothing, but it also could tell us that in that same period from May till now, voters became a little more pessimistic about the national economy and continued to see Wisconsin lagging behind other states in job growth. And in both of those cases, we see that people who have more positive views of the economy and jobs are more favorable to Obama or to Walker. People who have more negative views are substantially less favorable to each of them. And so I think this is a case where you can see that they suffer a bit from the same symptom, an economy that's not performing terribly well. And it also shows why the economy and jobs are likely to be such an important issue going into 2014. Voters are aware of it, they see problems, and it moves the vote quite a bit.
Now, in this poll, you took a look at men and women. Were there differences?
There are, and it's kind of interesting how they work out. There's a long-standing gender gap, of course, that we've known about for a long time, where at the national level, women approve of President Obama by a 9-point margin, but men disapprove of him by an 8-point margin. And so this is a case where the gender gap kind of cancels each other out. But when we move to the state level, for women, disapproval outweighs approval of Governor Walker by 9 points. But for men are 15 points more approving than disapproving. So this is a flip side of the gender gap. We think of the gender gap as primarily a matter of how women are voting or perceive candidates. But it's the men here in the state who are substantially more net favorable to Governor Walker, even more so than they are in terms of how they react to the president.
That's really interesting.
Has the negative women rating gone up?
It's been fairly stable, so we don't see a big shift in it from, say, May or back in March before the budget, for example. And
with the reproductive issues?
The reproductive rights or abortion regulation legislation that was passed. But I think the other thing is it's easy to think of those as issues that shift the women's vote. They're not necessarily the same issues that shift the men's vote. So we could be talking about two parallel tracks here of different reasons why each reacts either positively or negatively.
And one of these men has to be reelected and the other doesn't.
That's exactly right.
There's a big difference there. But keep an eye on things.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You having a good summer?
very nice.
It's going by fast, isn't it? We'll see you sooner than you think.
A lot of elections coming up.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Charles. Good to see you. Well,